2025 was my first gardening season, and as a total newbie, my goal was really to try as many different kinds of plants that I possibly could and to learn as much as possible about growing those plants. I had some really good successes and a good number of failures as well. So as I sit down to plan out an upcoming 2026 season, I thought it would be a good time to really reflect on what were the best performing plants and the most challenging plants. I'm going to talk about these plants in no particular order, but I do want to take a moment to talk a bit about the nuances of my growing space. So anytime you think about a growing space, the native soil is so important to consider. And when I planned out my vegetable garden, I already knew that my soil was super clay heavy and I didn't really want to mess with that. I want to get growing right away. So most of my vegetable garden, well, really my entire vegetable garden, is in raised beds and grow bags, so I could really control the soil content and make sure it was the texture that I wanted it to be. On the ornamental side, though, I decided to just work straight in my native soil, knowing that it would be quite a bit of a challenge, and it definitely has been. I've been using a lot of compost to help lighten it up and just add more organic material to it. One of the challenges I ran into was that the former owner had put sand in the soil, which is basically like the worst thing you could do when you have heavy clay soil. And I understand the thinking. One of the biggest challenges with heavy clay is the drainage, and sand is great for drainage, right? But unfortunately, sand plus clay soil equals basically concrete. I literally have to take a pickaxe to break it up and pull it out in chunks just to be able to work with the soil. Very frustrating to deal with. Luckily, that was contained to a certain area. It happens to be the area right in front of the house where I want to do a lot of ornamental planting. So the ornamental side of my garden has been much more challenging than my vegetable plot. That said, there are two vegetables that I chose to grow on the ornamental side because I think they're beautiful to look at. One was artichokes, and the second one was okra. And both of these plants did phenomenally well. I chose artichokes because they're perennial, and perennials generally have really strong roots. So if anything can deal with like a heavy compacted soil, it's gonna be a perennial. They have grown so large, like way larger than I thought they would. So artichokes are my first pick for just a plant that really did super well. And I picked okra to go on the ornamental side because I knew it would thrive in my climate. It gets so hot here in the summer, and while most plants are sort of wilting and suffering, the okra's like, yes, give me more. Give me all the sun, give me all the heat, and they were so happy. They did not have a problem with the clay soil at all. I didn't amend it. I didn't do anything to it. I grew them in 6Ls to start them, and then I popped them in and they just took off. So really easy to grow, super happy with the performance. So okra is the second one that I call out as a really great performer in Zone 8A. The next veggie I'd love to talk about is peas. And peas are my absolute favorite vegetable to eat from the garden. None of them make it to the kitchen, no matter how many plants I grow. It's never enough. I will never have enough to actually cook with. They all go straight into my mouth in the garden, and I'm starting like 3 times as many as I did last year. I still don't think any will make it into the kitchen. But the nuance about peas, and my takeaway for peas, is just getting the timing right. I really underestimated how long it would take to get them going, and I also didn't realize that they're really quite frost tolerant. So this year I'm starting them way earlier than I did last year, and hopefully that will extend my harvest period, and I will do multiple successions. So I've already started some peas. I'm gonna experiment growing them in different areas. I'm actually putting some in ground. Now that I've kind of dipped my toe in the water, I want to see what else I can do there. The other side, I may start a little bit later because I really want to perfect my pea growing game, and they don't like hot weather. So you want to take advantage of the cool temperatures when we have them. And what's really challenging about being here in Zone 8A is just that it gets so hot so quickly. Sometimes it feels like we go from winter to summer, and spring can feel really short or just so volatile. It's really kind of a tough thing to work with. So my advice on peas is every 2 weeks or so, plant a new succession and then see how it goes. Another plant that requires some pretty specific timing is broccoli, for a lot of the same reasons as the peas. And I didn't start my broccoli early enough. Again, it is a frost tolerant plant, so I am starting them much earlier. The other thing I learned about broccoli is just that there are multiple types. Most of the time when you think about broccoli, you're thinking about that big crown, and that's what you eat. But I really like a tender stem. I love broccolini. I am trying broccolini this year for the first time, but what I did try was a sprouting broccoli. So it does have a head. It is a little bit smaller, but instead of having a huge crown, what it does is have a lot of offshoots. And I really love that because I don't need a ton of anything all at once. So I love that the harvest window is stretched out. It's also, to me, a great use of space because it remains productive for such a long time. I won't be growing heading broccoli anymore. I'm just going to grow that sprouting kind just because it's so much more efficient. Next, let's talk about some of the solanaceous crops. So peppers, eggplants, and tomatoes. All three of them I've found a lot of success with. They've been really productive, and I love how little pest pressure they have. They've been so low maintenance, more productive than honestly I need them to be. I enjoy these veggies, but they're not my favorite, so I don't need a ton of them, and I feel like I planted too many. So this year I'm pulling back. Really easy to grow, again, doesn't mind the heat at all. They were doing great. The tomatoes did seem to have a little bit of a lull when we were at our hottest points in the summer. In the south, when it is too hot and super humid, the flowers will drop, and I didn't experience that in my yards. The variety that did the best for me was San Marzano. So that is a plum tomato, a saucing tomato, probably the most famous one. Super delicious, so prolific, like so much more prolific than I thought they would be, and I made the mistake of planting 6. And at the end of the season, I had to take them all green before the frost hit, and I had like 60 pounds of tomatoes. It was just overwhelming and way too much, but a great problem to have, and the San Marzanos really did super, super well. So those were my standouts. The next one on my list is carrots. I have always liked carrots. I never got emotional about them. I never cared that much about them, but I had never had a freshly plucked carrot. They do taste so different, especially a winter carrot. Carrots are super easy to grow as long as you get the germination right. It is a little bit tricky just because you want to keep the surface moist the whole time. You can't let it dry out. So I found that just mulching it with either some straw or some cedar shavings will work like a charm. Some people will actually cover it with cardboard or a board or something just to make sure. I planted my first wave of carrots a bit late, so they matured when it was warmer, and they didn't taste bad, but they didn't taste great. It wasn't until I tasted the ones that I sowed in kind of late summer and harvested in fall that I understood how good carrots could be. They won't bat an eyelash at temperatures in the teens. I have mine protected. If they do get damaged, it will just be the green tops. The roots will be fine, and they'll just power through it. So grow carrots in the winter. Please, please, please. You won't regret it. The only thing you have to be careful about with carrots is just that the soil isn't compacted. So I'm not gonna try growing carrots in my compacted clay soil. I'm gonna stick to the sort of fluffy soil that I have in my beds and my bags. The next one on my list is Swiss chard. Again, no surprise, I love Swiss chard so much. And one of the reasons why I love Swiss chard is just that it is such a hardy plant. It can grow through all seasons. It never bolted on me, even in the summer heat. It just charged right through it. It just won't stop growing. It's a monster. And I was just so impressed by how huge the leaves got, and so productive, so easy to maintain. I did have a little bit of pest pressure with slugs, but other than slugs, no pests really bothered it. So it was really easy to maintain. I'm overwintering it now. If it was out unprotected, it would probably die off in the winter, but just a little bit of frost protection and it's powering right through wintertime. So Swiss chard, really great plant to grow. The last one I would call out as a standout for the garden here is Napa cabbage. And I won't say that it's easy to grow Napa cabbage because it is a plant that pests love, specifically slugs and earwigs. Like, ugh, so gross. But if you grow them in the off season, the cold season like I do, the pest pressure is way easier to deal with. I do use Sluggo Plus to keep them in check in the warmer edges of when I'm growing them. But I've grown them both in the spring and in the fall. They both did well. I kind of like the fall even better than the spring just because you're growing it through the winter. I am dealing with a couple of slugs, even in the winter because I protect them. I guess I've done too good of a job and it's nice and cozy in there. So it's not like completely pest free in the winter, but it is a lot easier. You're going from a warm situation, going colder as it matures versus the opposite in the springtime. So as the heads get larger, this is when the pests start to come out in the spring. So just something to keep in mind. Really great plant to grow, delicious crop, and one that grows very well in cool weather. Such a quintessential part of being Korean, making kimchi. It's like so essential for us. But in general, it's a really great plant to grow, delicious crop, and one that grows very well in cool weather. Now let's talk about some of the challenges I've had in this year. And the biggest challenge I've had, the most heartbreaking one for me, has been squashes. Squashes of all kinds. I tried so many different squashes. They all got taken out by one thing. And if you grow on the East Coast, especially in the South, you know about squash vine borer. It is a nightmare. It's just a mean little thing that will not just munch on your plants like most pests do, it kills the whole thing. So I'm on a mission and I have multiple strategies to deal with it. One, let's talk about varieties. So definitely there are some squashes that are more prone to damage. I try to grow everything labeled as squash vine resistant, but it didn't work clearly for acorn squash, butternut squash, or kabocha squash. They tried, they really tried. I really tried. In the end, it just didn't work. I just couldn't keep up with them. Center cut squash and trombocino squash did seem like they were okay. However, I started them too late in the season to get a good crop out of them. I also started zucchini very late in the season. I planted these in July because the squash vine borer is pretty much gone by like August, like late July, August. So I was like, okay, like there's enough time for me to get quick maturing zucchini in the ground. And I did. And it gave me one fruit. And then the second fruit, I found a hole in it one day and it turned out to be the pickle worm. So I was like, oh my God, I cannot catch a break with zucchini. So I have a separate strategy for zucchini, which is I found a parthenocarpic version, which just means that it doesn't need a male flower to be pollinated. It can actually develop fruit without pollination from a male flower. So that means that it can be protected. It doesn't need pollinators. So I'm gonna try to grow zucchini under protection. It's gonna be like Fort Knox in there. And hopefully I can finally grow some zucchini. So that's a very specific strategy I'm using for zucchinis. For everything else, I'm doing two things. One, I'm going to be using one of those cattle panel trellises to get them more vertical. I had them sprawling on the ground, and it's not necessarily going to stop a squash vine borer, but I do think it helps with just checking on the plants and being vigilant. It's just kind of easier. It's at eye level to check under leaves and things like that. So that's one thing I'm doing. The other thing I'm doing is bringing in some help in the format of bug assassins. I have a neighbor who was growing squash successfully, and I asked him, like, what are you doing differently than me? Mine all got taken out. And he gave it some thought. He's like, you know, I wonder if it has something to do with the praying mantises we got. Someone had given them an egg case. That's the only difference I can think of. And I thought, well, you know, that sounds great to me. An idea of a natural sort of way of controlling pests without any chemicals. I'm all for it. I was going to get some eggs online, and then late in the season, I think it was October or November, I went out to cut down my tomato plants and I saw a mantis egg case. So it happened naturally, and I am thrilled to bits. I sort of cut down the vines, piled them up on top of each other so it's kind of protected outside. And hopefully come springtime, my little army of assassins will come and take care of these pests, hopefully. And wouldn't that be so great? If this works, I'm 100% shouting it from the rooftops that everyone needs to get some mantises. So that's my plan for squashes. My next challenging plant that I'm going to talk about is sweet potato. It's because it grows too well, and it was such a battle to keep it in check. I had it growing in a raised bed at the end, back kind of corner next to my neighbor's yard, and it just kept creeping out, and it grew so fast, so vigorously, and anywhere it touched the ground, it would root. Like a full-time job, just trying to just beat this sweet potato back. It's not its fault, it's my fault. I grew it in the wrong place and in the wrong circumstances, and I do love sweet potatoes, so I am rethinking how I'm growing them. I'm going to put them in their own large grow bag, or maybe like a half barrel or something like that, far away from the neighbors, and put it on a trellis so that the vines go up, and just keep it off the ground. And that is my mission. I might even put it on my driveway, so if I miss it for a day or two, it doesn't have the ability to have roots, and it'll just be sitting on some concrete, because it was such a battle for me last year. My biggest singular failure, I would say this year, was peanuts. I straight up failed with peanuts so bad, so hard. And I think it's just because they need a very different environment than most of my plants. They don't like that rich soil. They want it to be kind of dry. And I just kept watering them the same way that I watered all my other plants, and they did not like that at all. It was way too much for them. So I don't know if I'm gonna give it another shot. I'll see, maybe if I have some extra space or extra grow bags or something, maybe I'll try again. But oh man, I failed so badly. It was just like, wah, wah, wah. Another plant I wouldn't say I totally failed at it, but I was really not very successful with was cucumbers. And it surprised me because I'd grown cucumbers before at my mom's house and at my sister's house. They've always been so vigorous with like zero effort, and for whatever reasons, I could not get cucumbers happy in my growing space. I was giving them fertilizer, keeping them well watered, and it's not that they didn't grow at all or didn't produce at all, but they just were so stunted, just clearly unhappy, and produced so little. So I'm trying a few new varieties this year, and hopefully that will be better. One of them that I'm trying is the Armenian cucumber, which can grow in much hotter conditions. The other thing I found that with the cucumbers I did grow is that they had a little bit of bitterness to them. Again, I think because of the heat. Similar to cucumbers, my lettuce was a little bit challenging, mainly because of the temperature and the bitterness as a result of the high heat that happens so fast this year. So I'm starting my lettuce earlier, and I've also decided to just grow lettuce inside. I have a whole grow light setup that I don't use in the warmer months of the year, and I'm like, I have a perfect place to grow lettuce where I don't have to worry about the heat that's outside. So my lesson and my big takeaway is just to use my grow light space for things other than starting seeds, which is why I primarily have them, and just grow lettuce inside and not even bother trying to fight nature. Another failure of mine was trying to grow things from bare root. I tried both asparagus and strawberries. The asparagus was better. I'd say maybe 2/3 to 3/4 of the plants made it and are continuing. With strawberries, I lost almost every single one, and I really tried to follow instructions to a T. So I kind of gave up on the bare root, went out and bought live plants, and those are thriving. So I don't think I have a bad soil mix for strawberries. I don't know, bare roots are just not for me. It would have been nice because they're cheaper, and I wish I had just started out with live plants instead of even trying the bare root. One thing I tried last year, just for fun, was to grow chickpeas. I had heard you can eat them green like edamame, and I was so curious, and I was like, all right, let's try to grow some chickpeas. And I had them in an area that just didn't get enough sun, so it wasn't fair to them. I might give them another shot because, you know, I'm curious and I'd love to taste what like a fresh chickpea tastes like. And also just because the seeds are already in a bag in my pantry, right? I don't have to go out and get different seeds. You can literally just soak a chickpea, throw it in the ground, and it will turn into a plant, or at least some of them will turn into a plant. The germination rate was definitely about 50%, so not horrible either. And they're so cheap, so like, why not? Throw a bunch in a grow bag and see what happens. I'll probably try it again this year and just put them in much better sunlight. What I did to change the sunlight situation is I had a birch tree in my backyard. And when I was initially moving in, I worked with a landscape designer who told me, oh, don't worry about that tree. The leaves are so small, it's really not gonna shade anything out. It absolutely shaded things out, and it ended up being like a big challenge for my vegetable garden space. So I basically stripped all the branches off. I left the trunk to use as a trellis for the next plant that I struggled with, which was hardy kiwi. And again, because of the shade that tree created, my hardy kiwi grew, but not nearly to the extent that it should have. So this year it should do a lot better. The key lesson for me was just sunlight. And for a lot of plants, dappled sun isn't good enough. Some of them are okay with it, but a lot of plants aren't. So hardy kiwi and chickpeas are two plants that I will put in the same place, but because I took down that tree, will have much better growing conditions. The next plant that I struggled with a little bit were beets. I was able to get them to grow, but I think in general, what would happen is the roots would grow kind of above ground rather than, you know, at least a good portion of them being in the soil. The whole root was practically above ground. And because of that, it would kind of dry out and it would split. So my lesson moving forward was just to plant beets deeper than I was. I think I was only planting them maybe like a 1/2 inch down into the soil. In the future, I'm going to be planting them at least 1 inch down. And the very last one that I'd put on kind of my naughty list is ground cherries. I love ground cherries. It's a taste that not everyone enjoys because it's a very sweet, sort of savory mix, but I really love them. And they grew really well here. That's not my issue with them. The issue for me has been pest pressure. When ground cherries ripen, they fall to the ground. That's how you know they're done. So as soon as they hit the ground, the ants are all over them. And it was like a race to pick them up off the ground. I'm going to give some thought to kind of how I might be able to grow them where that won't be as much of an issue. It's like a tease. It's like right in front of you and I'm like, oh, this one looks so good. And there's just like all this ant gunk in it. It's so gross. Really don't want to spray or use any harsh pesticides. So I'm gonna have to do some research. If you have any suggestions on how to keep your ants out of your ground cherries, I would love to hear them. Please do share. So that wraps up my roundup of best and worst performers in my garden, and hope you found this helpful. Thanks for watching and see you next time. My 2026 garden plan. But before I dig into 2026, I wanted to take a moment to chat about